Very good morning to you all who are present here. Myself, Dr. Mamta D. Daivadnya. So today, the fourth day of the induction program, so we will be having the two presentations. So on behalf of Vice Chancellor, Lieutenant Governor MD Venkatesh, Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Pragna Rao, and Director MIT Bangalore Campus Dr. Jagannath Koradi, I welcome you all, Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, and all the students of 2021-22 of MIT Bangalore campus for this fourth day of induction program. So today's first presentation will be by Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta. I'm just happy to introduce him. So Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta is working as an associate professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Manipal University, Jaipur. Dr. Gupta is PhD from IISc Bangalore and MTech from NIT Allahabad. Dr. Gupta received the Best Thesis Award and MAA Communications Gold Medal in the year 2013 at IISc Bangalore. He pursued postdoc program at École Centrale de Nantes, France, being a partner of a Pro Regio project. Dr. Gupta has received postdoc fellowship in the year 2014 for Heritage Erasmus Mundus Mobility Program by European Commission's Indo-French Sandwich PhD Fellowship in the year 2009 by Embassy of France, India, International Travel Grant in the year 2018 by DST SERB, Government of India, and grant from AICT for organizing Atal FDP. Dr. Gupta has 16 years of industry academic blended experience and published more than 50 research papers. Research interest includes product development, 3D digital modeling, CAD/CAM, product informatives, augmented and virtual reality. With this brief introduction, I will present you Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So good morning to all of you. And so I hope I am audible to all of you. Please confirm.
Yeah, you are audible, sir.
And my presentation is also visible in full screen mode.
PPT is also available, so we can see that in full screen. You can proceed.
Thank you. So good morning to all of you, and it's a nice opportunity to interact with you in the first day induction program at Manipal Institute of Technology, Bangalore campus. So the title I put this presentation is Engineering Graphics. So this is the subject you will be studying in the first semester. And I also include learning and skill development opportunities in this field or some other field which I can help you, or I facilitate you to, let's say, get the knowledge or develop your skill in those areas. Okay. So this is brief introduction about myself, and ma'am already introduced myself. Thank you, ma'am. And you see here I put different logos at the bottom and the side also. So bottom you see Design Society, International Society of Automation, SAE India, ASME, Institution of Engineers, and others. So I am connected with these different professional bodies, and I am member in some of the professional bodies. I am life member and fellow member. So I can facilitate these facilities, or they organize some event for the student, and we can also have the chapter, student chapter or professional body chapter there to, let's say, facilitate the things in an easier manner. Okay. So what do you expect from this presentation, which I am going to present today? And this is a small introduction. So first I will explain you what is engineering graphics, right? Engineering graphics, computer graphics, or engineering drawing, there are multiple names given, but subject name what you have is engineering graphics, right? So engineering graphics is the language of engineers or designers. It is required to communicate ideas in a unique and unambiguous way. Unique and unambiguous representation, right? So what you have in your mind, right? So instead of writing stories or putting the text you can communicate ideas on using some graphics, right? Some sketches, right? Which can be shared or discussed. Even you can refine your thinking, putting those ideas on the paper, which is not possible if you write on the text. And sometimes it is very important. It is required to collaborate and to communicate to members involved in the product development, right? So for documentation purpose, right, sending the drawings to the shop floor for manufacturing, right, for inspection, even for packaging, and for generating the document for operation documents, maintenance instructions. So engineering graphics is a language to communicate all these ideas using some sketches or putting the drawings or graphics on the sheet, on the drawing sheet or paper sheet, right? And it is difficult to represent those things using the text, and sometimes right, when you send these ideas or drawings or ideas to the shop floor person who is semi-skilled, not as skilled as engineers, so like operation person, like who's running the turning machine or doing some operational work, they may not understand the hyphy language. So you communicate those ideas on a sheet of paper and then send to them. So it becomes the language for engineers and designers to communicate ideas among ourselves, among different departments, even to send to communicate it to the shop floor, right? So there are some standards, some conventions involved in that one. So you will be learning all these things in this particular course, right? And we will extend engineering graphics, which is let's say coming from the very long ways, right? So with the invent of computers and usage of computers in day-to-day life in product development, so we'll explain you to using the computers. There are many softwares which involved, or you can draw those ideas, those things which are required for the communication among different product development applications or members involving members using the computer graphics, right? So we'll see that there are software like I will name few: computer aided design softwares or graphics core softwares. For drawing we generally use AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Pro-E, Ideas, Creo, Siemens NX, Solidays, and there are many open source softwares also. So next I will explain you that what are the product development strategies, right? And importance of these of IT enabled tools, okay? Or where IT people or computer scientists or computer engineers can involve, what are their roles, right? Because engineering graphics is used in all domains, not only let's say engineering domain, but it will be used by other domains also. When you send the document to the let's say municipal corporation or government department for the taking the approval, so again you need the engineering graphics help. Okay. Next I will explain you the learning and skill development opportunities. I will give you some examples or projects ideas which I have taken, or I am expecting you can use those things, and which will be taken forward for you to enhance the things. Okay. Okay, so layout, how I have planned my presentation is I will first give you the introduction, and then I will give you engineering graphics, though I have explained a little bit in the previous slide, and then product development, design components, and learning skill development opportunities, and then I will conclude the session. So you see, when we do any activities, right? So you need some information, right? So when we go for product development, we see the product informatics, where all the informations are required starting from the early stage of product design till the even delivery of the product or even disposal of the product, right? Even some of the elements at the stage of the product disposal you can bring into the product design stage. So the complete thing is that you need to have the product information, or we say that product informatics. So product information which used in different stages of the product development and connecting the stages, right? So you cannot send the product at one stage to other stage, but there are some changes required. So product informatics nowadays, even earlier also, it was very important, right? So product informatics, how to generate the product information which can be used in different stages of product development. So this product information or creating the product information, earlier it was done manually, right? So you can see in the earlier top figure, I'll open the pen, this one. So you can do these things manually, or it was done from a long time. All design offices, if you see 10 or 15 years before, and they use manual drawing. There are many ways of doing, even different instruments are required. Even nowadays, some departments also use engineering drawing, which can be done manually, especially in civil or construction. But now most of the design offices or product development offices, they bring the ideas to the computer. So everything what is done manually, right, can be done same way in the computer, using the computer design softwares, computer aided softwares, and then you can develop those drawings from the software itself, which can be used for different documentation purpose. Okay, sometimes you don't need to develop the layout. You can directly send the 3D model to the product development stages, right? Where it can be used, by different actors or different, like for concept, prototype, new product, information, introduction, even for the production, right? So there are different for maintenance, even getting the feedback from the customers, then enhancing the product. So you can directly use the model which is created in any CAD modeling software, and you can have some permissions, right? You can use the information which is required, you can hide the information which is not required, right? And you can simplify the model based on the requirement. Okay. So the product information, creating the product information is very much important, right? If you don't have product information, right, you take any let's say any of the technology, right, you cannot do anything. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, right, doing the coding or anything, you need to have the product information first. So I have written how is the product information created. It is important, right? So I said manually we do, using the computers we do, right? There are different ways, but these two ways you will learn in this subject, and how it is utilized, right? So once you have the information, then utilization of that product information is also important, right? So it has to be stored or created in such a way that other application has to understand, right? So engineering community or designers community, we or different standard communities, they come up with standards, right? So you write A is like, looks like A, right? Okay, so it should be like A. Okay, or you write a straight line, there is a meaning of a straight line. If you write line with a dash dash dash, right, this is the symbol of diameter, phi is a symbol of diameter, right? So there are different standards involved just to make that, okay, what you are creating the information is understood in the same way by the other person, right? So you will learn those standards, how to do those standards, which can be in unique and unambiguous way. I said that information what you created, it should be unique and unambiguous, right? It's not like you create something and different person understand differently. Then there is no use of such kind of things. So you will learn these things in the subject. Okay. So the subject name, this is the first year, these are the first year courses. So this is for the physics group. The subject name is Computer Engineering Graphics 1. Subject code is MME1161. And every week you will have one lecture and then 2 hours for practice, or for I will give you some problem. You need to draw those on a drawing sheet or on a computer, and then that will be evaluated, and you will get the marks accordingly. Similarly, for the chemistry group, the same course is there, and it is the same which is there in the physics group. So it is common to both of you. So this is engineering graphics 1. And you will have one more course, which is the extension, or which explain you some advanced features, which is engineering graphics 2. You will learn in the second semester. So these things, this is the introduction. This course teaches the basics of engineering drawing, utilizing freehand sketching, manual drafting, and computer aided drafting. Okay. So fundamental principles of projections used in engineering drawing. Okay. So projections, some of you probably know that if you have, let's say, 3D model, for example, this one, then how to draw this on a drawing sheet, because sheet is a 2D, it is not a 3D, right? So you need some techniques to represent a model, right? I will show you one more model, right? For example, this one. So if you see from, let's say, front side, you don't know what is on behind of this particular face, right? So there are methods or way how to draw this object on a drawing sheet, right? So that all the information is available and in a unique and unambiguous way, and that will you learn there. So there are different projections or principles of drawing those models you will learn. And then topics of dimensioning, right? Dimensioning is important. There are standards for dimensioning, right? How you need to give, because this is a simple object, but you may have different features, right? So you need to give the dimension in a very, let's say, standard and clear way, so that what you send to the other members or other application which uses this particular drawing, so they should understand what you are sending. Okay. So orthographic projections of various geometric elements what are taught. So you know what are the geometric elements, right? So geometric elements, like you can start with the point, line, then you have the plane, and then you have the solid, right? So all this you will learn solid, right? Sphere or maybe cylinder. So these things will be explained to you. So after learning, these are the course outcomes. So upon successful completion of this course, so you will understand and apply conventions used in engineering drawing and dimensioning, right? So what are the standards used, what are the convention methods, how you draw the object on the drawing sheet, so that it will give you the unique and unambiguous and clear information, right? And understand the theory of projections and read engineering drawings. Draw orthographic projections of geometric elements like point, you can add point, line, planes, and solid. Use computer aided design tools in engineering graphics, right? So we'll see that. Okay, so probably I will involve 50% time or 50% of your total classes for manual drawing, and 50% is on the computer aided drawings. So this is the subject for course content or syllabus for engineering graphics 1. So this is one lecture, right? 2 hours for practice, and this is a 2 credit course. Introduction. In the case of introduction, geometrical constructions, dimensioning and conventions of line, and there are many more in the how to write the letters, right, in engineering drawing sheet. What is the layout of the drawing sheet? What is the title box? How you place the information in the title box, right? And what are the instruments you use? So there are all things I will explain you in the introduction. Then we'll have I will take geometric elements starting from the 0D, right? Where 0D to 1D, 2D, 3D, and so on. How to draw those things, because the information or learning is exponential or learning is incremental. So once you understand the point, that information applies to the line, and once you know the line, that information applies to the plane, and then once you know this, then it applies to. So first is the projection of points, second is projection of straight lines, inclined to both horizontal and vertical plane, traces of line, application problem of lines. So in engineering drawing, there are a specific way of defining the geometric elements, right? So generally it is defined based on the horizontal plane, vertical plane, horizontal plane which is parallel to the earth, and vertical plane is perpendicular to the ground, right? So geometric entities are explained with reference to horizontal plane, vertical plane, right? Intersection line of those planes, and there are different elements. So you will see how it is defined, right? How the questions are formed for drawing person or designers to, let's say, clearly define the problem statement, and they can clearly give the solution in terms of the engineering drawing. Okay, so projection of regular plane and then solid, and regular solid, then we go from the simple solid to the complex solid little bit. So we say the prism, pyramid, cone, cylinder, so you already know, and then we'll create some small features on that one, and then you will learn how to draw these things, how to give dimensions, all these things. So you will be learning at the end of this course, you will be able to create the drawing as a professional person, right? You will give the drawing, we see that, okay, some professional or engineer or designer has created a drawing, and now the drawing is ready to send to the government office or different department in the product development. Okay, so there, how you clearly define, so we'll see that in more detail. I think now is okay, more detail. So there are a specific way of visualizing the placement of the object, and then write the different 2D views, right, to explain the 3D views on a drawing sheet, right? So there are two ways which are commonly used. So more detail I will explain you when in the first class. But here just you see that, okay, object is placed in a box, and when you open the box, right? So the light coming on and striking on the faces in the box will give you the projections. Right? And then when you open that, then you will see that projections on those. So that way you can define that top view, front view, and side view, right? So these things are explained here. There are two ways. First one is putting the object inside the box. Second way is putting the object outside the box. Okay. So we'll see those things and then open up those things and to draw how you draw those things. Okay. So different instruments, we'll see that drafter, board, then vernier, then D, T's. There are some which are not used nowadays, right? But there are many which are used when you go for the manual drawing, right? When you go for the engineering drawing, computer aided drawing, then still there are some reductions of these instruments. So we'll see, but it is better to have the manual drawing first so that you will see and clearly see, because sometimes when you do or practice by hand, you will have the better grasping power, and information will stay longer. So it is required. Okay. So first, then second is next is the drawing. So you see that this is the object. Then you can directly create the 3D object in modeling tools or CAD modeling tools, and then you see whatever way you want. Here is you see only the edges are visible. Edges are visible and hidden edges are not visible in this. So you can show, you can have the some where hidden edges are also visible, right? And you can even hide these edges also, and you can directly create the layout also. So you will learn all these things in this particular subject. Okay. So I think this is okay. So when you put the object, so this is the way we'll see that in more detail. So in manual drawing, so you visualize the object which is there in the object in the box, and then you open up and then you draw the projections like this, right? So this is complete presentation of this object in a manual drawing. Okay, manual drawing means you create the object on a drawing sheet. Okay, manually. And when you draw the same object, then you can draw the same object using the computer, also computer aided tools. So there are different way. Here it is different strategy to draw, but here you can directly draw the object by creating, let's say you select the plane and then you create the 2D sketch and then you swap, extrude that object, right? Object, and then you create the different features on the surface, right? And then you cut those features from the object, and so all these things you will learn in this particular subject, right? And then you create the object. So you no need, it will save a lot of time when you do by using the computers, and then you no need to worry about the how the different views are arranged. When you give this, it will, and the same model can be sent to the different department unless they don't need the particular, let's say, hard copy of this. And so it will, life become little easier as compared to the doing the manual things. But manual things is required. First is to understand what is there in the drawing, how it can be drawn, right? And also because many standards, many conventions, many things you only learn when you practice yourself, right? By hand. Okay. So we'll spend 50% time classes on manual drawing and 50% on computer aided, most probably, or we'll use the AutoCAD software, which is available to all of you from AICTE. So once you get the email ID from Manipal Institute of Technology, Bengaluru, then you can use that email ID for validating the registration or license, and you can use that particular software in your computer at home also, or if you are there in the campus, then you can use in the campus also. Okay. So these are the list of subjects. So it is there. You will maybe. Okay. So we'll see 1 or 2 or 3 books as textbook, and then others you can use the reference book, and that I will explain you when we come to the class. Okay. So let's say you created the product information. So how you use the product information? So it is the same sentence which I have used in the previous slide. Product information modeling and utilizing are essential for every stage of the product development, right? So you can create the modeling many times or you create one time, right? And it is very important, and you utilize the information in different stages, right? So in the case of manual drawing, so you need to create multiple times, but when you use the computer aided design tools, then you create one time and then use multiple times. That becomes easier. But there are different challenges when you use the same model in multiple times. So we'll see that what is there. Okay. So build in a CAD modeling or a set of modeling packages utilized and managed by different modeling packages, right? Generally, a company and vendor use different packages, right? So what is the problem is that when you draw that one, there are some mismatch. So that is again the study of, let's say, for you also, that how that mismatch can be resolved. There are different methods of resolving those mismatches, so that you can take some idea from here and then work on as let's say improving or skill or understanding how these things are done. So once you do, then the same can be sent to the digital manufacturing unit, and where it can be manufactured by the machine. And if some modifications, enhancements are required, then you can go to the cycle, and then again you send it to the digital manufacturing platform. So this is example of product development, or how the product development will happen. So product development is a transformation of market opportunity into the product available for sale, for earning profit, right? Earning some benefits, right? It can be in terms of money, it can be in terms of competition, it can be in terms of some, right? Basically, you have some need or some requirement, and then you give the solution for that. That everything between this, from the requirement to the solution, comes the product development. Product can be a physical product, it can be a services also. So all these things. So market opportunity to product launch. So product development activities fill the gap between these two. That is the basic meaning of product development. So new product development, or say product development, is a set of activities. Okay. There are many activities or many stages to bring market opportunity to new or revised product. It can be a completely new product, or you can take the older product and make the changes as according to the need. Okay. So here the example, that new product, when you start from the scratch, for example, this is a side bag, but sometimes it is not, or when you take the feedback, customers may not like, or a specific set of customers may not like. For example, kids. So kids never like the bag like this one, right? So you need to put something attraction for them. So here you see that some images are there, so which is the enhancement of this. And the pocket, you see this side pocket is there to put some doll or maybe some extra stuff. And putting the bag on the side way, it is difficult for the kids, so you have the backpack arrangement here. Okay. So after a few years, when kids take this one, and then the bag become heavy, so it will be difficult again to sell the bags. So then they develop the trolley for that. Trolley can be detachable and can be fixed in the bag itself. So like that, product development happens, right? This is a simple example, right? So it happens like this one. Okay. So component, when you see, so I explained you for the manual drawing. So here you see the component, how it is drawn here for using the computer aided tool. So let's say base model is there. So first they create the sketch, and then, so this is cut extrude. So they will give you will give the cutting. You see the arrow here, which is going down, and you give the dimension, which is here 20. and it will create the cutout. Okay. Similarly, this is in SolidWorks. This is in Siemens NX. Earlier it is named as UGNX. Okay. So learning skill opportunities. So these things you can use for developing many things, understanding many things, and even enhancing the things. So you can see around, right? And you see, okay, there are some changes, there are some difficulty if you provide this particular feature on that product or something, then it becomes easier. Or it can be look wise, it can be aesthetic wise, it can be usage wise, it can be maintenance wise also. Okay. So for computer aided tools, so first set of tools like CATIA, Creo, NX, SolidWorks, these are the commercial tools, right? So for using these tools, one has to pay some money, right? Even in academics also, if you want to use these things, then you need to pay. But when it is used in the industry, then they has to pay a huge amount, right? But the usage of commercial software, they guarantee that the data, what they have used, right? What features they provide, what user interface for creating the model or utilizing the model, right? So it is smooth there. So it is based on the industry standards. They provide that. Okay. But many industry uses these softwares, like you start from automation, you aerospace industries, automobile industries, service industries. So all type of industries using one or two, either one or two softwares from these 4 softwares. Right. And the next set of softwares you see, these are the open source software, right? So open source softwares is based on the open standards, right? So it is available on the internet. So you just log in, register it, and you can download these softwares in your laptop, and then you utilize these softwares. Or even some softwares you no need to download, even you can use in the web browser, which is there in your registration login ID, right? So open SCAD, open JCAD. JCAD is Java based, then BRL CAD, FreeCAD, LibraCAD, Blender, Autodesk, Fusion 360, and you can develop your own software also, right? There is nothing very special these things, right? As I said that some of the sketches, right? You select a plane, you draw the profile and then extrude it, right? So you can develop your own software based on your interest, right? And you can have you have additional features. Some of the features may not be there in any of these softwares based on the requirement, right? So you can develop software similar to these software, or making some changes or some differences, and maybe specific to a application. So these softwares, some softwares may not use in some application, you can develop. For example, for the garment industry, they don't have very let's say robust software, so you can develop robust software there also. Even for nesting, when you have, like I am wearing this t-shirt and you have the different pieces, small pieces, arranging those pieces in an optimal way on a, let's say, cloth, and then after that cutting. So you can develop such kind of software or other also. Okay. So when you exchange the information, there are 2 ways. One is using neutral format, other is using one-to-one. So there you need to develop compiler or translator, so that we'll see later. So we also develop strategy, right? Using based on the neutral format and translator and compiler, not translator, compiler also. So this is the class structure, right? This is the GUI, so where you fill the information related to, or information is taken from the CAD software about this object, and the application will give the different uses of that particular model in different applications. Right? So this is an example. So this is taken from one software, then application develop this model, right? And then it can be used by other software, or it can be created automatically in different application, right? So that information mismatch is not there, and it can be created in a way that you are creating the model in different other application, right? So you can see the different variations, and you see the extraction also. So you can model them, you can extract the information in a way you want. What I wanted, I have explained there in this. So what is required for doing such kind of application is understanding different modeling concepts, right? Understanding native format, how information is stored and used in an application. Understanding neutral format, when you exchange, then what are the neutral formats are there, right? How the information is let's say communicated between different softwares instead of having the native format to native format exchange. Then you also need to have the software development skills, how you develop the software, how you create the user interface, how the information is connected to the database and stored in the database, right? So all these things are required. Then you need computer graphics information, geometric modeling, visualization. Visualization is also very important things. Right? Once you created, how the information is visualized, right? So you need to have the proper way of visualization. You need to understand the application protocol interface, how you design the compiler, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, artificial augmented reality, virtual reality, data mining, right? So all these domains are required, and industries are, if you have these capabilities or some of these capabilities, industries need such kind of expertise to hire them. And so industries, I will name few: 3D PLM, Autodesk, right? Altair, Siemens, right? So all these industries, CATIA, Dassault System, so Unigraphics, and there are many. Even there are some companies locally, they are there in India, and they gave the small solutions to the local vendors for such kind of things. Okay. So we have developed for the regular solid, we extracted this information even with surfaces. So where you cannot even see visually the features, but still the program will be able to see the features and then exchange the information, right? The same information we use for the simplification of the solid model, right? So you have many features in the solid, but when you go for the simplification and other things, right, it is good to, when you have the simplification, then for the simulation or exchanging the information or doing some further analysis becomes easier. Okay. So you can do many things in this domain, right? So for example, here you see the cabinet. So you see the number of features, these things here. They are also small features. When you do analysis or further, let's say post-processing, modeling or analysis or simulation, right? Or doing something, let's say flow analysis, strength analysis, then it is difficult to, let's say, carry on those small features. So you simplify them depending on the requirement. If still there are complex, then you simplify further, right? So these things also we have done using that previous information. Okay. We also utilize this information for manufacturing plan or process plan simulation, right? So this is for additive manufacturing, for developing the additive manufacturing production knowledge base, right? So when you give the model to the knowledge base, it will say the very well-defined orientation. If you place the object in this way, then it will give you the least time, least cost, and very smooth surface object, and can be used for the enhancement for taking the customer feedback, and those feedbacks can be used in product development and then enhancing the model in an iterative manner. So as I said, that you can design the product from the new first time, right? But most of the times you enhance the product, okay, or change the product or create the varieties in the product based on the requirement, right? Based on the different sectors you identify, okay, this place, this type of customers need this product, this place, this type of customers need this product or this type of solutions, right? So this is, you can do that also, okay? So you can see around things and see what are the enhancement or improvement required based on the operation, usage, based on the aesthetic, right? Based on the maintenance, or based on different criteria also. Right? Okay, so product development, you see this is the product development. If you remove these computer aided tool, this is used from the long time, and nowadays it is used using the computer aided design tools, computer aided design, finite element method, and rapid prototyping. Okay, but now you have the different technologies coming, internet based or computer based information communication technology, digital form and communication, IoT, artificial intelligence, human interventions, cloud computing. So these are the technologies which give the added advantages to the product development. Though it use the same thing, but they use in a different way, and you can have the very better results, right? For example, let's say you are producing a product and a component which is supplied by the different vendors, right? But in supply chain or product development chain, you need to have some constraints on that particular product, particular component in a product, and you have the vendor which varies in the cost, which varies in the product also. So you need to identify the component which will give you on time, right, and which will give you the best result. So these different technologies will help you in doing such kind of things computationally, right? And physical things. So nowadays your machine, right, your design office are there, but using these latest technologies, these machines or these are connected through the internet, right? The cloud computing, so the computational other parts happens in the cloud, not on the machine, right? And the end result will come to the machine will get the software, or on the cloud application, they take the information using the sensors or different way from the machine, do the processing there and send the end result there, right? So it needs a sensing technology, it needs a communication technologies, right? But things remain same, what you have, only the way it will change, so that you will get the better result, right? You can get the result in a shorter time, and the things are available in a larger public or larger domain. Okay. So second side, next is the customer driven product development, configuration and validation, right? So the product generally created by the industries, right? So they take the things or requirement from the market or customer, and they develop the product based on what they have. But nowadays things are changing. So product is specific to the customer. They can develop their own product, right? So you can have some configuration mechanism for the customer on a product or a specific set of product, and what customer design, company cannot do everything. So there should be some validation check. Even what customer design, it may not be valid. For example, let's say you design a product. If you see the faces are not connected each other, then that is not a valid solid, right? So for having the valid solid, valid product, there are some constraints. So such kind of things you can do computationally or develop a software, right? And the challenge is now that whether we have all 100% automation, so that we'll see when it comes, or when you go particular, let's say project or minor project or major project, then we'll explain you that. Okay. So in the beginning, as I said, that I am attached to the different societies: International Society of Automation, Design Society, SAE India, ASME, right? So you can utilize this particular connections or these connections for enhancing, for having the connections with the different groups, right? And they also float some project, small projects, right? Or we can also, I can also project based on their theme, based on your interest, right? And nowadays MATLAB and Python, these are the very, I think, handy. These are the very handy softwares, right? So you should learn these. These are not very difficult, right? So it is good to learn, and I can help you in all these things to enhance your skill. Lastly, that you have the SWAM portal, swam.gov.in, right? So SWAM, it is developed by Government of India, right? And there are many partners. For engineers, the main partner is NPTEL. This is the logo of NPTEL. So you can select the subject based on your understanding or learning of what you want to learn. For learning these things, they will not charge anything. So these things are available when you Google search, right? Or if you want to have the specific course doing, then you just take the register on the SWAM portal, okay? Search the subject or course what you want and register there. So there is no charge for that one. It is for enhancing the knowledge, for having the better understanding, right? So there are multiple ways of disseminating or giving the knowledge to you. They have the PPTs, they have even text information, and they have video already recorded video, and they have the assignments. So every week they will give assignment and evaluate what you learned, right? So these things are free of cost for Indians, right? As you will be the part, you are part of, even if you for others also, as it is developed under the let's say project by Government of India and different partners like AICTE, UGC, MHRD, different IITs, ISC, NITs, and so on. Okay. So what you can learn for enhancing, so product informatics, right? Developing the information, product information using different even software tools or algorithms or customized algorithms. You can use the augmented reality. I can also help. Augmented reality can be used even as the model. You see in COVID period, augmented reality is used by different, even Google also different, just to make that say that distancing or identifying some characteristics, right? So it can also be used for designing the product. Augmented reality, virtual reality, data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, reverse engineering, okay? Enhancing product and services, automation, okay? Developing standards. So all these things based on your interest, right? You can do these things as minor project or major project, or even developing something, okay? So thank you all. And this is end of my presentation. So if you have any question, you are welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so there are some questions. So will it be AutoCAD? There was some question. Which one they are talking about, I don't know.
Yeah, please repeat the question.
Yeah. So will we be using AutoCAD?
Yes.
Will we be using AutoCAD?
Yes. So officially in the class, we will be using AutoCAD, right? As I said that AutoCAD is available from the AICTE. You just register there in the Autodesk website, download the software, install in your computer, and then when you register or register the software, you use the ID or the key which is sent by the on your institute email ID, right? But you can use other softwares. There are not much difference when you use other software, but officially or assignments, other things, I will be giving you in the AutoCAD so that the things becomes homogeneous, right? And you will learn better way.
So
Yes.
I think relevant to something they are asking, is this, let me just go through that. Is this same as product designing? So they might have related to something they're asking there.
Okay, so product designing, it consists of many things, right? But here we see the engineering drawings or engineering graphics or computer graphics, where you generate the product information at the early stage of the design, right? So how to draw the product on a drawing sheet, and how to draw the product or model the product in a computer, right? But product design may consist of many things. So in this subject, we concentrate more on drawing aspect, modeling aspect. Am I clear to?
Yeah, it may be clear to the students. Thank you very much for your talk, sir. Good morning. Welcome you again. Welcome Dr. Geeta Narayanan too. So today's speaker is Dr. Geeta Narayanan. She will be going to talk on design thinking in engineering. So I will just introduce Dr. Geeta Narayanan. She is an administrator, researcher, teacher and facilitator. She has pioneered many courses and projects that examine a wide variety of needs, both social and educational. She is a B.Ed from Bangalore University, pursued MA in International Education from Oxford Brookes University, and has an honorary doctorate from Oxford Brookes University. Dr. Geeta Narayan went on to form a Ujjwal Trust in 1982. Initially, the trust established the prestigious Malya Aditi International School. Later, the trust initiated Srishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology in 1996. Holding the position of the founder director of both these institutions, Dr. Geeta Narayanan is gifting creative professionals to the industry through the unique methodologies and approaches to the teaching at Srishti. With this brief introduction, I will present you Dr. Geeta Narayanan. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, Mamta. And I would just like to begin with a big thank you to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of MAHE, Lieutenant General Dr. Venkatesh, to his team at Manipal, Dr. Sabahit, PLNG Rao, and to the team in Bangalore, Dr. Pragna Rao, Vidya Shetty, for giving me this opportunity. And I'm also happy that we are joined by many people from Manipal, Jaipur, Manipal, Sikkim, and from my own home of Srishti Manipal in Bangalore. So it's a distinctive honor that you've given me to give this address, and I thank you and appreciate you very much. Before I begin my presentation, I'm just going to turn my slideshow on, and I just want to verify that it's full screen right now and in the play mode. Are you all able to see it, Prema?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So before I begin, I want to make some introductory remarks about my presentation and the importance and relevance of it to the large audience I know that is listening, including the very important guests of today, the students of BTech, MIT, who are joining Manipal and Mahe today. You are really the guests of honor, and this is targeted towards you, but perhaps it has a wider audience as well. I have chosen to talk about not just design thinking and engineering, but I think I would like you who are joining the educational arena here for your undergraduate education in 2021 to understand that the past has a lot to do with where you are today, and the uncertainties of today are the building of bridging and possibilities for the future, not just of you, but for our country and for the economy that is so important to everybody. So I'm going to go back a little. As an perhaps part explanation and part apology, I'm going to say that to those of you, this is part of a presentation, not all of it, that I made in Hyderabad at the General Assembly of the World Design Organization to over 1,000 international delegates from Hyderabad. And then I later presented it to the government of Telangana, to their Department of IT/BT. I have made it a little different for you, but historically its genesis and its some of the content was slated towards much more of a design audience. To those of you who are joining engineering and the BTech, I see no difference between being an engineer, a technologist, or a designer. Since times immemorial, design and technology are just the opposite sides of a coin. Whether it's the wheel that was one of our first artifacts that come out of technology and which was then designed into carts and cars and many other things, pulleys and conveyor belts, we know that technology drives the economy and drives industrialization, and that is driven by ideas that are then put into the workplace, into life, and into the community and society by designers who design products and make it accessible. So I don't think that these engineers and technologists are just builders. I think they're also designers. And I think that today designers must also learn to think like technologists and engineers. And so with that kind of comment in my, as an overview, I go to the slide, which I like a lot. When you look for the future, the biologist Gregory Bateson says that we have to look for the pattern that connects the crab to the lobster and the orchid to the primrose. How are they connected to me? And how am I connected to you? And in all of us, how are we connected to the amoeba in one direction and perhaps to a schizophrenic in another? He's building most impossible connections there. And he's saying that when we search for the future, as an evolutionary biologist, he says, look and for the pattern that connects. This is the underlying thesis of my presentation, where I'm going to search for meta patterns, a pattern of patterns, and I'm going to define the generalizations that it makes in terms of economy, in terms of industry, and then in terms of curriculum, learning, and design education too, and apply it to you who are technologists to be and engineers of the world to come. So if we keep this thing in our mind that we're always looking for making impossible connections, you know, then we like to think like the Red Queen in Alice and Through the Looking Glass, where she said, you know, I always make a habit of believing 6 impossible things before breakfast. So it is necessary to think of the impossible and know that you can make a possibility happen if you search for the meta pattern. So let us look back. The early part of the 20th century, and I really go back to Indian independence. From the 74 years of independence and in the early part of the 20th century, that is pre-independence, the world was dominated, in India also, by inventions in science and technology. They were the engines of the economies of those times. They were built on mechanization, on automation and standardization, and it was the logic of clocks. I mean, the film Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin, I don't know whether the young have seen that kind of movie. Definitely for the older members of the community, we've all seen the film Modern Times, where the logic of the conveyor belt and the logic of the factory, which is built on repetition of order, and this was the language that dominated any industrial worldview, and any education in any form of technology or education meant that people had to learn the rules of order. And
sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are still in the first slide.
Oh, okay. Let me just go back and see how to make that change. Okay, can you see the second slide now?
Yeah. Now third slide.
I'm going to, this was the second slide. Can you see it?
Yeah. Searching for the, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep the left-hand column going because I think that.
It is better, ma'am.
It is better, okay. So if you look at this, there is the science and technology, which was looking at energy and materials. The processes of engineering were mechanization and standardization. We had a big industrial revolution, including the one in our own country, where we saw big high-tech dams coming up, and Bharat Electronics, Hindustan Machine Tools, Bharat Heavy Electricals, Indian Telephone Industries. Those were all built on the logic of conveyor belts, and everybody knew that the repetition and rules of order were very, very important. And the visual text was the result of mechanization of the printing press, and across the country we saw many changes, such as the city of Chandigarh. This is a pride of us, of our urban planning, and you can see the logic of that. Can you see the slide? Can I just ask? Okay.
Yeah.
So the plan of the new capital of Punjab, we called in a French architect, Le Corbusier, and he built it on a grid. Can you see the repetition and order that I'm talking about? When we went into publication, we followed the Swiss thing of lines and grids, not the Indian alphabet and its curves and things, but how do you keep two parallel lines and squares? We suddenly decided to industrialize furniture, and industrial furniture today, whether it's companies like Featherlight or others, manufacture furniture which is made out of metal and plastic, and this was part of the engineering that came out of that school of Scandinavian design. And of course, our famous Illustrated Weekly of India, which shows what they thought the village economy in 1948 was to look like, very orderly and very organized and very systemized, again, form and function and the grid. And this is the Bangalore bus station in the 1950s. But what are the industries? What are the engineering industries that we're looking at here? We're looking at the communication industry. We're looking at the manufacturing industry. We're looking at the industry of making something like a transportation, Ashok Leyland, and many others who decided to go in for building our transportation. And so if you were a B.Tech, you would not be designing cars, you would be designing for the mobility of hundreds and thousands of our people, including rail transportation. So the industrial age in India, which is the period of the 1950s, was linear, was defined. It had three main agendas for the economy of our country: manufacturing as an engineering thing, communication, and infrastructure. And with this, the curriculum that came forward was, in order to help industry, we had industrial design, we had graphic design to help communication, we had spatial design and transportation design to help build infrastructure for our cities. So you see, design is not different from technologies, and nor is it different from engineering and the economic drivers. That's the connection I'm going to make as I go along. But then we come, say, to the period of the 70s. So I'm jumping from the 50s to the 70s. And this is a book that kind of revolutionized a lot. This is William Mitchell, a good friend of mine. He wrote about the information highway as early as the late 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s. And what we saw then was a miniaturization and commercialization of machines. Phones got smaller, devices got smaller, and it just changed the way anything was done. In fact, at Nokia, one of the big signs that they have is in Helsinki is the world changed forever when you saw a man looking at a phone rather than talking with holding it to its ear. And today all we do is click on it with our two thumbs. So this miniaturization and commercialization, which is an engineering issue, had the process of digitization, automation, and making things smaller. And it led to India's big information and communication revolution. This is what the current economic driver for India has been, and especially of a city like Bangalore. And at the same time, we started having things like Bollywood, globalization, the telling of stories, and many other things that started happening in parallel. But they were small, they were intimate. Perhaps you could call it Gandhian. Perhaps you could call it from Shantiniketan, but they were small movements. The large movement came from engineering and technology as a revolution, and we started seeing new media which told us where we were, things that we could touch, things that we could hear, things that were local, and of course the smaller movements, things that were handcrafted. Now where does that go when this new world order emerged? Well, it told you that many things could happen simultaneously. And this simultaneously means that, one can have the IPL happening in Dubai and you are watching it here. There is no break between time and space. At the same time, it built the information highway that we are calling the internet, which is a giant database with a history, and people started saying that they wanted information, they wanted it simultaneously, and this whole notion of synchronicity became one of the technologies that was driving innovation at every level. In this picture that I show you, it is synchronity of art, but it is the development of a certain kind of technology where the one performer here is mirroring a performer somewhere else. And this was kind of experiments that art and science did. And this is a picture out of Helsinki and the work that was happening in Finland many years ago. And this was India's dream, right? India wanted a digital India. They wanted digital empowerment for its citizens. They wanted governance, systems and services on demand. And they wanted digital infrastructure as a utility to every citizen. This affected electronics and manufacturing, information for all, harvesting programs, e-Kranti and the electronic delivery of services, e-governance, which we see so now, even the CoWIN app and so on, public internet access, universal access to mobile connectivity, broadband highways, and IT for jobs. You can see that from the year 2000 onwards, this dream of a digital India has driven engineering, has driven technology, has driven the economic order, and has also driven design. You can make any connections you want right now between this, between the information highway and the earlier India of simple publications and simple cities and ordinary buses. So when we come into this information age, we are becoming more and more computational. The computational network defines who we are. And therefore, when you come and say you're a student of IT, it is this backbone that gives you the edge. But what are the economic drivers of that edge? The economic drivers are globalization of one world and a kind of homogenization of what we see as entertainment or food or clothing or anything else. The denim jean being the example. Consumerism, late capitalism in the form of industry, and at this time people didn't really care about consumption. They were all anti-environmentalists, and they felt that large factories, smokestack industries were the way to take and grow and a country, whichever country it is. And as far as we were concerned in the design world, we had to piggyback this computational networked and distributed form of information technologies with services design, with information design, with telematic arts. But we also worried about how we could, with the Digital India mandate, look at how we can do it for the other 90%, those who did not have anything. Could we use it for the development of India? Could we use it for the future and leapfrog our country and our future into a more satisfactory and healthier and less survival and more wellness-based economies? And this was where your kind of BTech computational network things started. The curriculum, even for engineering, would have changed at that time. So then you say, what is the pattern that connects? The logic of standardization, which is the city as of Le Corbusier, or the furniture, Scandinavian furniture design, or the kinds of lines and grids of Swiss typography, with what is happening now in information and technology, where everything is connected, and how can we in turn do it to help people who are creating digital services for the other 90%. And this is a concept that I want to highlight, is that whatever you do, the notion of ethical expertise is extremely important to keep in mind. Just the technology by itself, or the mastery of the process, or that is an economic driver, is never enough. One asks this question and searches for an answer through the language of ethical expertise. You are an expert, but you blend it with ethics as well. Yes, there's considerable turbulence now in the system because nobody really knows what's happening, you know. The information highway that happened turned Bangalore around, and suddenly it became a city which was not defined by the mega industries, but by the smaller industries, which grew to be the Wipros and the Infosys of our city. And suddenly the jobs became Bangalore-centric because of globalization, and we became the BPO capital for the Silicon Valley and for the banks of America and for financial services across the world. And so really we became the service providers at the back end, and the very famous words in North America and in the Silicon Valley is "we have been Bangalored," came out of this, and that is the turbulence I'm referring to. But apart from that turbulence, something new was happening. We were no longer talking about the information highway. We were talking about a biological civilization. And today, nobody can live without biology. Biology is going to rule IT, BTechs, almost everything. We are here in a new biological civilization, and we have to learn from the social systems of hives and flocks and termites. And we have to remember that we are looking at something in manufacturing and engineering, which we are calling closed loop. And you're going to find out about these things as you are students. But I'm just telling you that it is part today of a neo-biological civilization. Find the book Out of Control, The New Biology of Machines. Read Kevin Kelly's online, and you'll get a sense of how important this is. But this is still about 15 years ago. Kevin Kelly is still writing, and he's still very active. But what did this whole notion of swarms and hives do? It unleashed the open source movement. So professionals who were studying BTech and who were looking for jobs in the BPO were suddenly outrun by Linux in Scandinavia, who set up a system that he owed nothing to anybody, to George Lucas, who founded the Open Source Foundation, by many others who came and said that there's the Creative Commons, and suddenly the world was divided between professionals who came through the educational world and tribal groups that were working online with no connections to anybody, no education, and were beating everybody at their own game. And this became a flux that people had to deal with, both in education, and I still feel that As educators, this is one of the things that we have to remember, that we can't teach everybody everything. They're going to go away and do their own thing at some point. So between the professional and the tribal, there was again turbulence. And then we started having this whole notion that we were entering now a non-Euclidean space where quantum theory, quantum mechanics, the mathematics of complexity and chaotic systems started defining network economics. And we entered from an information and communication revolution to a post-digitization world where the engineering world and the economic world and the productive world were suddenly looking at e-money and digital capital. It was disruptive. They started looking at ideas as capital, and this led to this whole smart startup economy. And the locative capital, which told us where we are, gave a whole lot of systems thinking for us to have Dunzo and Flipkart and Amazon, and us have Google Maps to find out where we are. But even as I speak, this economy has run into trouble. You know, I mean, if I look at my age, and I'm going to be 72 shortly, I saw paper money being replaced by the credit card. I saw now the credit card being replaced by digital capital, which is on the telephone, which is one device. And now today, as I'm going to come to it, maybe that's had, and in the space of 50 years, we've seen money change completely, and money becomes the formative basis of any economy and any economic driver. So let me go to the next stage. So now what do we have? We still have manufacturing. We are still, and we compete with China in industrial design, and we still have cities that we have to design. We still have buses and cars and bikes that we have to design. In our country, we're still in the information age, and we still need to give services for the computational world, for computational networks. We have to give Flipkart and Amazon and everybody else the services and information that they need. And yes, we use it in game design. We use it in the whole notion of virtual reality in the film world. And we still remain anti-environmentalistic, and we still have many smokestack industries in our country. But in the post-digital world, where we look at the following of flocks and termites, we are now looking at mobility very differently. We're looking at digital currencies. We are really looking at smart cities, and we are looking at usability. So the user or the common citizen suddenly becomes very important. We have to find out whether they are a housewife, or whether a cerebral palsy patient, whether they are ASHA workers in Chennapatna, or whether they are women in the field. We need to know what they need, because everything is connected. As you know, your Facebook tells you today what you were searching on the internet yesterday. So things are connected in ways that we don't even know. And we have to understand that as engineers. We have to understand what design thinking goes into it. And we have to know that we become the world, not of employment, but of startups. And the smart cities and digital currencies and mobility plays a very, very big role in it. And we have to think about it very, very carefully. Here is some pictures from some of the futuristic work that has happened. Here is weather data that is coming from San Francisco and from Bangalore, being created into sound at the Serendipity Festival in Goa, where people were playing with satellites and playing with weather data and sound installations to understand how it works across time zones. This was 2 years ago. This is another piece of work done with the help of NIMHANS, where if you stand in front of this plastic cubicle and you have a friend standing underneath with an umbrella and you concentrate, you do nothing but concentrate, you have no device on you and you concentrate, it starts raining. And this is why I'm saying now we are in a new biological civilization, because if the human mind can concentrate to produce rain, that will cover that. And this was publicly shown in the Bangalore Palace, and many thousands of people came and saw it happen. And this is the Cubbon Park metro station, where the people who are now the telematics and art go together, where people who are migrating through the city are telling their stories, and their stories are being merged simultaneously as they transit on the beltways. And this is my favorite one. All of you think your mobile phones are secure, right? You all have passwords, you have Paytm, you have Google Pay, Amazon Pay. We put our credit cards on it to have Dunzo and other Swiggy deliver to us. This was done with two computer scientists and technologists who came from the United States. It was done at the Cubbon Park metro station, where they asked everybody who was passing through how secure their data was. And then using lasers, the technology of lasers, they printed on a map on the ground where that person who's standing there with his rucksack, or you can see the amount of data that was going across the world. And they proved satisfactorily to the public that there was no such thing as a secure phone. And this kind of communication has become the work of what we call today public art, where we take the technology and we print it, but we also use it to demonstrate publicly what is happening inside the black box of a phone. So the technology and design and engineering get married together. This is another view of the Cubbon Park metro station, where again, every single one of these are speaking in Kannada, they're telling their stories, and people who were transiting through the metro just stopped and had a view of this, they could speak their own voices about what they wanted for the city of Bangalore. It was called the Festival of Stories, and it was amazing. And it is just such a simple technology. It was engineered with the briefest of efforts, and it made headlines across the city. So today you don't keep engineering in a box, technology in a box, design in a box, storytelling in a box. Everything is the pattern that connects, like the amoeba to us and us to the schizophrenic. There is no compartments. Everything has to be connected in the world that we live in. And so now we are entering difficult times. Yes, we have quantum theory and complex and chaotic systems, but now what I've shown you is the connection between the mind and the body, neuroscience, the ability to use biological systems for a post-information area, that we can play with satellites and our own brains. We can look at genetic engineering. All of us know we are bionic in some way today. We have artificial hips and artificial knees. We have stents in our heart. And the Manipal group is perhaps one of the best places to actually look at that. We have prostheses, we wear glasses, we implant lenses into our eyes. We do so many things today with genetic engineering. And genetic engineering is now, something to understand that there are problems with it, and that there are connections and plasticity with it. So I'm coming more or less to the end of what I'm saying, because once we enter the world of big data, and we enter the world of analytics and artificial intelligence, we have cells which are moist materials. We are now in the world where we're fighting climate change. We have bots everywhere, robots, which are going to now, they say, rule the world, but I don't know. We have very advanced precision manufacturing. We no longer have manufacturing in a very simple way. It is algorithmic, it is computational, it's technology driven, and we have the Internet of Things, which connects everything to everything else. But we're also looking at a post-human future. We are looking and saying, what is synthetic biology? What is genetic engineering? What are molecular machine systems? And what are they going to do? So your BTech is going to be connected to biology, whether you like it or not. It has to be connected to neuroscience and to biological systems and to genetic engineering, because otherwise the play changes. So the battle between where it was energy and materials, and then it went to bits and bytes, and then it went to non-Euclidean arguments and quantum mechanics, and then it went to neuroscience and biological systems. And now we're looking at the real and the artificial and machines that are actually made out of moist materials. And perhaps the pandemic is one example of how that went completely wrong. At Srishti, here are students working with DNA. They are looking at the DNA, and they won this competition 3 times. iGEM stands for Intelligent Genetically Engineered Machines, and our students created in their very humble and prosaic labs through synthetic biology and using artistic research processes, new biological organisms that won them the MIT iGEM Prize at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology for 3 years in a row. And then they won the Harvard Biomed Prize. So you can see that synthetic biology and genetical engineering can be done by artists as much as it can be done by engineers. So this notion of the professional and the tribal is a connection. The pattern that connects is very much alive. We now know that you can make music without a human being, and that computational sound is generating the new kinds of music without even a human being. You just need to code and be able to program. And so we start asking questions about what connects the form and function and the grids of Le Corbusier and the Swiss approach and the emergence of telematics to synthetic biology. And here the words of Varela come again. Just like he talked about ethical expertise, I'm talking about we have to know about how to be wise. We have to learn the ethics of wisdom. At a college, you don't learn just what, but you have to know how. And know what is what you are doing, what its implications are. Know how are the mechanisms of how you do it. But the most important thing a college can give you is the ethics of wisdom. And finally, when we come to the end of the journey that I have taken you through, where we are looking at molecular machines and remechanization, we're looking at post-intelligence and post-human, because artificial intelligence and virtual reality are really something that is going to cause huge disruption and defuturing. And the 3 biggest disruptors that you will have to deal with, apart from synthetic biology, is automatic travel, driverless cars, drones, and cryptocurrencies. My students are already working and investing in what are called the fungible tokens, NFTs. And we know that cryptocurrencies are something that the government is trying to regulate, but will not be able to regulate. And we know that drones are here to stay, and tomorrow our Amazon or Flipkart will be delivered by drones. And the driverless travel is already being questioned and in the Tata Elxsi offices at Whitefield. And we're seeing what benefits it will do. So mobility now suddenly is not the transportation of buses or the designing of cars. It is about creating a whole new mobility system, because within the next decade, we are going to be we're going to have automatic travel, and we're also probably going to be very fuel light. So for all of you who are joining MIT in the BTech, this is the age for you where you will be disrupted, and you will have these bigger areas such as Bitcoins and NFTs, drones, driverless cars, and of course agriculture, where people are now do not need to own land to grow food. They can do it in vertical things. They've learned to do it inside. Biology has played a big role in understanding these systems, and there's a huge amount of engineering and a huge amount of design that has to go into any one of the 4 that I have shown here. So in conclusion, we are here. We are still in India in all the periods, from the industrial age of linear manufacturing, which is still important to us, to the information age, where we look at computational networked distribution and consumerism. We're looking at the post-digital world with capital, innovation, mobility, and digital currencies. We're looking at post-information with big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, with robots, moist materials, and climate change. And finally, in a post-pandemic world, we have to look at the ethics of wisdom. We have to look at something that gives life. We have to bring back generosity and giving. We have to remain symbiotic and connected. The 2 drivers for the economy of the future, if I have anything to say, will be environmentalism and frugality. And with that, we bring consciousness and poiesis to the center. So what does that mean? What I'm trying to tell you is the future never arrives. We are already there in so many ways. And in a post-pandemic world, regeneration needs to be life-centric. The transition economies will depend on the renewal of life and the interdependence of all living species, not just human. And that consciousness, which is our minds, and the environment is where we live in reality, cannot be separated. They are one and the same. And consciousness comes out of experience. It is emergent. And we must have some control over those given set of conditions. With that, I say that we have to look at what is poiesis, which is the art of making, that which does not exist, perhaps in life. 2, we have to look at regenerative economies. We must look at value that is not extracted or exploited, but created or made. We must learn that the value is collaborative and constructive for all, and the pattern that connects collaboration to hope and life to its essence or spirit must shape the future. The future is about the collaborative evolutionary designer. Thank you very much.
Students, request if you have any queries, kind in chat box.
I didn't understand what you said.
Because if students, they have any queries or questions, so they will usually put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I think I just saw one which said it was interesting. If there are anybody who's got questions, just could you just ask them, because Microsoft Teams is not my favorite platform, and I get kind of confused over this. I will, if you do put it in the chat box, I will see what is happening. I think that.
Yeah, one more has come, ma'am. It is a compliment to you. Glad to hear you, ma'am. This was the best session till now.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, I'm going to be around, guys. I'm not going away. I will come and see you if you're in the Bangalore campus. I might even come and see you if you're somewhere else. And if you have questions, you can send them. And I will do my best to answer it, but perhaps answer it in person when I come and walk about the MIT campus that you are here and you are going to be studying here. And if there is any direct questions you ask me, if there any faculty or anybody from any other group that want to think, that you can let me know.
All our complimentary comments you are getting, ma'am. This was the most interesting session yet. Everybody are complimenting. Thank you, ma'am. This was a super interesting session.
Thank you very much. Then may I take my leave then? And
yeah, one more
really my namaskarams to everybody. Kids, go into the world. Remember to be wise. Remember that you have to live with the past and connect the past to the present and to the future. Look for those patterns that connect, and you will do well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very informative talk on how revolution has been taking place in technology, engineering, and all that. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.